The elevator doors slid open to reveal Park Seo-jin, standing in the center of the Hanul Corporation lobby. Arms crossed, watching the chaos unfold with the cold detachment of a man who had seen empires crumble and hadn't blinked. Who authorized a Christmas tree in my building?
Who authorized a Christmas tree in my building?
His voice cut through the festive noise like a blade through silk. Raven Johnson froze mid-step, a box of ornaments clutched to her chest, tinsel draped over her shoulder like a sparkling scarf. She was new to the events coordination team, exactly 3 weeks into her dream job, and she had just made direct eye contact with the CEO of one of Seoul's largest conglomerates.
That would be me, sir,
she said, because apparently her survival instincts had taken the day off. Seo-jin's gaze swept over her slowly, cataloging everything from her natural hair styled in elegant twists to her red sweater dress to her complete lack of self-preservation. And you are? Raven Johnson, events coordinator. I was hired to plan the company Christmas party, and typically, Christmas parties involve Christmas decorations. Someone behind her made a strangled noise that sounded like a prayer. Miss Johnson? He walked toward her, each step deliberate, his Tom Ford suit probably costing more than her annual salary. Do you know what I do every December? Make people cry, presumably. The silence in the lobby became suffocating. Seo-jin stopped 3 feet from her, close enough that she could see the perfect architecture of his face, the sharp jaw and full lips that had graced magazine covers across Asia. Up close, he was almost offensively handsome, the kind of beautiful that felt like a personal attack. I work, he said, his voice dropping to a dangerous register. I don't celebrate Christmas. I don't acknowledge Christmas. And I certainly don't allow Christmas to infest my building like some kind of cheerful virus. With all due respect, sir, your VP hired me specifically to improve company morale through festive celebrations, and I have it in writing. Raven said fearlessly. My VP overstepped. Your VP signs my paychecks. I sign his. Raven took a breath, reminding herself that rent was due and jobs were scarce, and telling a billionaire to shove a candy cane where the sun didn't shine was probably career suicide. Mr. Park, I understand you have personal feelings about the holiday, but your employees have been working overtime for 3 months. They're exhausted. They deserve something to look forward to. They can look forward to their year-end bonuses. Money isn't everything. Spoken like someone who's never had any. The words hit like a slap, and Raven felt her composure crack. Excuse me? You heard me. His eyes were cold, assessing. Take down the decorations, cancel the party, find another company to waste time and resources on sentimental nonsense. No. The word hung between them, shocking them both. What did you say? Seo-jin asked, his voice dangerously quiet. I said no. Raven's heart was hammering, but she held her ground. I was hired to do a job, and I'm going to do it. If you want to fire me, fine. But you'll have to go through HR, and given the documentation I have about this project being approved at the executive level, that's going to be a very interesting conversation. For a long moment, he just stared at her. Something flickered in his eyes, too fast to identify, before they went cold again. You have 1 week to prove this isn't a complete waste of company resources. If the party isn't perfect, you're gone. And so is every piece of tinsel in this building. He turned and walked away, without waiting for a response, disappearing into his private elevator like a particularly well-dressed storm cloud. Raven's co-worker, Min-ji, materialized at her side. Did you just tell Park Seo-jin no? To his face? In front of people? Apparently. You're either the bravest person I've ever met or the stupidest. Can I be both? Given the way he was looking at you? Probably. Raven glanced back at the closed elevator doors. How was he looking at me? Min-ji grinned, like you were the first interesting thing he'd seen in years. The next morning, Raven arrived at work to find her desk had been moved from the bright, window-adjacent corner of the events office to a storage closet on the 47th floor, directly across from Seo-jin's executive suite. She stared at the tiny space, barely big enough for her desk and chair, surrounded by boxes of old files and what appeared to be a broken espresso machine. This is illegal, she said to no one in particular. It's not illegal if there's proper ventilation and emergency exit access, Seo Jin said from behind her, making her jump. I checked. She turned to find him leaning against his office doorframe, coffee in hand, looking infuriatingly pleased with himself. Today's suit was navy, perfectly tailored, and his hair was styled in that effortlessly tousled way that probably took an hour to achieve. You moved me to a closet? I moved you closer to my office so I can monitor your progress on this so-called party. He sipped his coffee. I'm a hands-on manager. This is retaliation. This is resource optimization. That corner desk was wasted on someone who spends most of her time running around the building harassing people about centerpieces. Raven took a deep breath. Fine. I'll work in the closet. Storage room. Glorified closet. She pushed past him to enter her new workspace, trying not to notice how he smelled like expensive cologne and winter air. But I'm going to need a few things. Such as a working light, a space heater, and about $100,000 more in my budget to make this party actually impressive. He laughed, and the sound was so unexpected that she turned to stare. It transformed his face, softening all those sharp edges, making him look younger and almost approachable. You're funny, he said. No. Which part is no? All of it. Figure it out with what you have. He walked into his office and closed the door. Through the glass walls, she could see him settle into his chair and immediately start working, not sparing her another glance. Raven looked around her tiny kingdom of broken office equipment and outdated files. Challenge accepted, you insufferable man. She got to work, and if she played Christmas music at a volume that was definitely audible through his fancy glass walls, well, that was just her creative process. By day 3, they had settled into a pattern of mutual antagonism that Raven almost found enjoyable. She would arrive early, decorating whatever common space she could access before Seo Jin noticed. He would discover her handiwork, send a pointed email to her company inbox about unauthorized modifications to corporate property, and then find ways to make her day slightly more difficult. He changed the Wi-Fi password without telling her. She replaced the music in the elevator with Christmas carols. He scheduled a meeting in the conference room she had reserved for party planning. She somehow convinced the cafeteria to only serve holiday-themed foods for a week. It was exhausting, exhilarating, and absolutely absurd. You know he's never this engaged with anyone, Minji told her during their lunch break. Normally he just ignores people until they go away. Lucky me. I'm serious. The man is famous for being completely unreachable. He shows up, runs the company like a machine, and goes home to his penthouse alone. No friends, no girlfriend, no hobbies anyone knows about. Maybe he collects stamps. Maybe he collects souls. Raven snorted. He's not that bad. He's just... She struggled for the right word. Wounded. Minji raised an eyebrow. How very compassionate of you. Don't read into it. I just recognize a person who's been hurt when I see one. She stabbed a piece of holiday-themed cake with her fork. It doesn't excuse him being a jerk. But it makes you curious. It makes me determined to throw the best damn Christmas party this company has ever seen, just to spite him. That afternoon, Raven was reviewing vendor contracts when Seo Jin appeared in her doorway, which was really more of a gap between boxes at this point. Come with me, he said. Magic word? His jaw tightened. Now. That's not it. Miss Johnson, I have a meeting in 20 minutes, and I need your presence for it. Will you please accompany me? The please sounded physically painful for him to produce, which made it somewhat satisfying. Fine, but only because you asked nicely. She followed him to a conference room on the executive floor, where a group of stern-looking investors sat around a polished table. They looked up when she entered, clearly surprised. Gentlemen, Seo Jin said, gesturing to Raven, this is our head of special events. She'll be walking you through the Christmas charity gala we're hosting next week. Raven's brain short-circuited. The what now? Seo Jin's hand landed on her lower back, warm and firm, steering her toward the front of the room. He leaned close to her ear, and his breath made her shiver. Improvise. You're insane. You said money isn't everything. Prove it. This gala will benefit children's hospitals across Seoul. The investors want to see if it's worth their participation. He pulled back slightly, his dark eyes meeting hers. Don't embarrass me. Don't throw me into situations without warning. Consider it a learning experience. He stepped away, taking a seat at the head of the table, leaving her alone in front of 5 of the wealthiest men in South Korea. Raven looked at their expectant faces, then at Seo-jin's challenging expression, and felt something spark in her chest that was equal parts fury and determination. "Gentlemen," she began, her voice steady despite her racing heart.
Gentlemen, let me tell you about the most magical night Seoul has ever seen.
For the next 45 minutes, she improvised the most elaborate, heartfelt, genuinely moving charity gala that had never existed until she spoke it into being. She pulled details from nowhere, wove emotion into every sentence, and watched as those stern investors leaned forward, captivated. By the time she finished, 2 of them had tears in their eyes, and one had already pulled out his checkbook. Seo-jin walked her back to her closet office in silence. "That was impressive," he finally said. "That was insane," she replied. "You can't just spring things like that on people." "I needed to see what you could do under pressure. You needed to put me in my place, and it backfired." He stopped walking, turning to face her. In the dim hallway, his features were all shadows and sharp angles. "Maybe I needed to see if you were worth the trouble you're causing." "And what's the verdict?" He studied her for a long moment, something shifting in his expression. "The jury's still out." "Well, while they're deliberating, you should know that I just committed your company to a full charity gala with a week's notice. So either you support me completely, or you explain to those investors why you wasted their time." The ghost of a smile flickered across his face. "You're blackmailing me. I'm leveraging our mutual situation for optimal outcomes. It's called business. It's called being impossible. Takes one to know one." He laughed again, that rare, transformative sound, and this time it did something dangerous to her heart. "Fine. You have full access to whatever resources you need. But I'm supervising personally." "Of course you are. And Raven?" He'd never used her first name before, and the sound of it in his voice made her breath catch. "Don't make me regret this." He walked away, leaving her standing in the hallway wondering when exactly this had stopped feeling like a battle and started feeling like something else entirely. The next few days blurred together in a frenzy of planning, coordinating, and trying desperately to ignore the fact that Park Seo-jin had become her constant shadow. He showed up at every vendor meeting, questioned every decision, and somehow made himself indispensable in ways that infuriated her. He had an eye for detail she hadn't expected, a business acumen that cut through problems like a knife, and an irritating habit of being right about things she didn't want him to be right about. "The centerpieces are wrong," he said, examining a sample arrangement. "They're exactly what I ordered. They're pedestrian. For a gala of this caliber, you need something unexpected." He pulled out his phone, scrolled through something, and showed her a picture of an elaborate ice sculpture arrangement. "Something like this. That's 3 times my centerpiece budget. Then reallocate from somewhere else. Everything is allocated. That's what a budget means." He looked at her with something that might have been respect. "Then find a sponsor. The Samsung executive who cried during your presentation would probably cover it. You want me to ask a grown man to pay for ice sculptures because my fake gala made him emotional? I want you to leverage every advantage you created. That's what I would do." She stared at him. "You're actually trying to help me." "I'm trying to ensure this event doesn't embarrass my company." "No, you're helping me. There's a difference." There really isn't. But there was, and they both knew it. Somewhere between the arguments and the competition, something had shifted. He still drove her crazy, still pushed every button she had. But now there was something else underneath it all. Something that made her pulse race when he walked into a room and her skin heat when he stood too close. Not that she would ever admit it. 2 days before the gala, disaster struck. The venue called to report a burst pipe, flooding the entire main ballroom. The caterer's refrigeration system failed, ruining thousands of dollars worth of food. And the band came down with food poisoning, all 7 members incapacitated. Raven sat in her closet office, surrounded by damage reports and cancellation notices. And for the first time since this all began, she felt tears prick her eyes. A knock on her door frame made her look up. Seo Jin stood there, his expression unreadable. "I heard," he said. "Then you know it's over. I can't pull this together in 2 days. No venue, no food, no entertainment." She laughed bitterly. "You win. Merry Christmas." He didn't respond right away. Instead, he walked into the tiny space, somehow making it feel even smaller, and sat on the edge of her desk. "The penthouse at the Shilla Hotel owes me a favor," he said. "I'll make a call." Raven blinked. "What?" "For the venue. It's smaller, but more exclusive. We can spin it as an intimate gathering rather than a large gala. You can't just call a 5-star hotel and demand their penthouse." "I'm fairly certain I can." He pulled out his phone. "For catering, my mother's foundation has a standing relationship with one of the best chefs in Seoul. He does charity events at cost." "Your mother has a foundation?" "Had. She passed away 4 years ago. The foundation continues in her name." His voice was carefully neutral, but Raven caught the flash of pain beneath the surface. "I'm sorry. Don't be. She would have liked you." He looked up from his phone, something vulnerable in his expression that he quickly masked. "She loved Christmas too. Made my father put up a 12-foot tree in our house every year, decorated every room, played carols until we all knew them by heart." "Is that why you hate it now?" He was quiet for a long moment. "I don't hate it. I just can't face it without her." The admission hung between them, raw and honest, in a way nothing between them had been before. "I lost my grandmother the same way," Raven said softly. "She raised me, taught me everything about making people feel special, about creating moments that mattered. Christmas was her favorite. After she died, I almost gave it up too." "What stopped you?" "I realized that giving it up would be letting her death win. The best way to honor her was to keep doing what she loved, to spread that joy to others the way she spread it to me." Seo Jin stared at her, something shifting in his eyes. "You're not what I expected. Neither are you. When I first saw you in that lobby, covered in tinsel, arguing with me in front of my entire staff, I thought you were either incredibly brave or incredibly stupid. You mentioned that. I've since revised my assessment. To what? Incredibly brave." He reached out, almost unconsciously, and touched a strand of tinsel still caught in her hair from earlier decorating. "And incredibly dangerous." Her breath caught. Dangerous how? In all the ways that matter. They were close now, closer than they'd ever been, and Raven could feel the heat of his body, see the individual striations of brown in his dark eyes, feel the tension coiling between them like a living thing. "Seo Jin," she whispered. "I should make those calls," he said. But he didn't move. "You should. The gala won't plan itself. It won't." Neither of them moved. The moment stretched, infinite and charged, and then his phone buzzed loudly, shattering whatever spell had fallen over them. He stepped back, clearing his throat, suddenly all business again. "I'll have the venue and catering sorted within the hour. You handle the entertainment. I don't know any musicians in Seoul. Then find some." He was already at the door, retreating from whatever had almost happened. "You're resourceful. I've seen it." He left, and Raven sat in her tiny closet office, heart pounding, wondering when exactly she had started falling for the man she was supposed to hate. If you're enjoying this story, tell me where you're celebrating your holidays from. Smash that like button and subscribe, because things are about to get even more intense. The night of the gala arrived faster than Raven was prepared for. Against all odds, everything had come together. The Shilla penthouse was transformed into a winter wonderland, all silver and ice blue and twinkling lights. The food was exquisite, the music was perfect thanks to a last-minute connection Minji had with a jazz ensemble, and the guests were flowing in, checkbooks ready. Raven stood at the entrance, greeting arrivals, her emerald green gown making her feel like a queen, even as her nerves threatened to overwhelm her.
You look beautiful.
She turned to find Seo Jin behind her, resplendent in a black tuxedo that made him look like he'd stepped out of a magazine. His eyes traveled over her slowly, appreciatively, making her skin flush. Thank you. She smoothed her dress self-consciously. You clean up okay yourself. Okay? He raised an eyebrow. I'll have you know this suit cost more than most people's cars. And yet you still have that stick up your... Careful. But he was smiling, actually smiling, and it transformed his entire face. We're in public. When has that ever stopped us? He laughed, offering her his arm. Come on, we should circulate. The evening unfolded like a dream. Raven watched children from the hospital beneficiaries light up at the decorations, saw hardened businessmen open their wallets with genuine generosity, felt the magic of the season settling over the room like a warm blanket. And through it all, Seo Jin stayed by her side. He introduced her to people as the visionary behind tonight, praised her work to investors, and looked at her like she was something precious and unexpected that had wandered into his carefully controlled life. You're staring, she told him during a rare quiet moment. I'm observing. Staring with extra steps. You did something incredible here. His voice was soft, sincere in a way she'd never heard. These children are going to benefit because you refused to give up, because you fought me at every turn. I fight everyone at every turn. It's a character flaw. It's your best quality. The live auction was about to begin, and Raven moved to find her seat. But Seo Jin caught her hand. Dance with me first. There's no dancing portion of the program. There is now. He signaled to the jazz ensemble, who shifted into a slow, romantic melody. Then he led her to the center of the room, pulling her close, one hand on her waist and the other holding hers against his chest. This is highly irregular, she said breathlessly. I'm the CEO. I'm allowed to be irregular. You're making a scene? I'm making a memory. He pulled her closer, their bodies aligned, moving together like they'd done this 100 times. I've been making scenes since you arrived. Might as well commit to it. When did this happen? She asked softly. When did what happen? This. She gestured vaguely between them. Us, whatever this is. I think it started in the lobby, when you refused to back down. Or maybe in that conference room, when you spun an entire gala out of thin air. Or maybe... He paused, something vulnerable flickering across his face. Maybe it was the moment you told me about your grandmother, and I realized we were the same kind of broken. We're not broken. We were. Maybe we're less broken now. The song ended, but neither of them let go. Around them, guests were applauding, probably assuming this was all part of the show. Seo Jin, Raven said. What happens after tonight? What do you want to happen? I asked first. He leaned close, his forehead nearly touching hers, his breath warm against her lips. I want to stop fighting what I feel. I want to explore whatever this is between us. I want... His voice dropped to a whisper. I want you, Raven. In whatever way you'll have me. Her heart was racing so fast, she was surprised it didn't beat right out of her chest. That's a lot of wants. I'm a greedy man. You're impossible. I'm in love with you. The words hung between them, shocking them both into stillness. You can't be, Raven whispered. It's been 2 weeks. And yet, he pulled back slightly, just enough to look into her eyes. I've spent 4 years feeling nothing. And then you appeared, covered in tinsel and fury, and suddenly I felt everything. I don't know how to explain it any other way. This is insane. Probably. We'll kill each other within a month. Maybe. He was smiling now, that rare, beautiful smile. But what a month it would be. She should have said no. She should have reminded him that workplace relationships were complicated, that they came from different worlds, that she was supposed to fly back to New York in 2 weeks. Instead, she kissed him. It was soft at first, tentative, both of them learning the shape of something new. Then he made a sound low in his throat. And suddenly they were consuming each other, all the tension of the past 2 weeks exploding into something fierce and hungry and absolutely perfect. When they finally broke apart, the entire room was watching. We should probably... Raven gestured vaguely at their audience. Absolutely. Seojin cleared his throat, looking slightly dazed. The auction, right. But he didn't let go of her hand. The rest of the evening passed in a blur. The auction raised more money than anyone expected. The children performed a heartbreaking rendition of Silent Night that left no dry eyes in the room. And through it all, Seojin kept finding ways to touch her. A hand on her back, fingers brushing her arm, his body gravitating toward hers like she was his own personal North Star. By the time the last guests left, Raven was exhausted, elated, and completely overwhelmed. "Come home with me," Seojin said. And the words were more question than command. "That's moving fast. We've already established that we don't do anything slowly. What about my reputation? Your reputation? I'm the CEO. My reputation is whatever I decide it is." He cupped her face in his hands, gentle despite the intensity in his eyes. "And your reputation is that you're the woman who brought color back into my life. I don't care who knows it." She should have said no. She should have been sensible. But when had sensible ever applied to anything about them? "Okay," she said, "but I'm not sleeping with you tonight. I didn't ask you to. You were thinking it. I was thinking about holding you while we watch terrible Christmas movies and fall asleep on my couch." He grinned. "But yes, I was also thinking about that." She laughed, the sound bubbling up from somewhere deep inside her, and let him lead her into the night. Christmas Eve arrived with a gentle snowfall over Seoul, turning the city into a winter postcard. Raven woke up in Seojin's penthouse, wrapped in the softest blankets she'd ever felt, the smell of coffee and something sweet drifting from the kitchen. True to his word, he hadn't pushed for anything she wasn't ready for. They'd stayed up late talking, learning each other's histories and hopes, and fallen asleep tangled together on his couch. She found him in the kitchen, wearing sweatpants and a t-shirt, looking so different from the cold CEO she'd first met that it almost gave her whiplash. "You cook?" she asked, sliding onto a bar stool. "I make breakfast. There's a difference." "What's the difference?" "Breakfast requires minimal skill. Cooking requires talent." He slid a plate of pancakes toward her. "These are from a box. Honest and domestic. I'm swooning." He leaned across the counter, close enough that she could smell his shampoo. "You should swoon." "I'm extremely swoony." "That's not a word." "It is now. I'm rich. I can invent words." She threw a piece of pancake at him, which he dodged with offended dignity. They spent the morning decorating his sterile penthouse, which had clearly never seen a Christmas decoration in its life. Raven had smuggled supplies from her own stash, and together they transformed the cold, modern space into something warm and festive. "This is ridiculous," Seojin said, struggling with a string of lights. "I'm a CEO. I shouldn't be doing this." "You're also a man whose girlfriend wants a proper Christmas. Adapt." "Girlfriend?" He looked up, eyes bright. "Is that what you are?" "Unless you have objections." "None whatsoever." He abandoned the lights to pull her into his arms. "In fact, I'd like to propose an amendment." "To our relationship?" "To your employment. I think the events coordinator position should be made permanent, with a significant raise. You can't give me a raise because we're dating. I can give you a raise because you single-handedly organized the most successful charity gala in company history. The dating is just a bonus. People will talk. People always talk. Let's give them something interesting to say." He kissed her, and she melted into him, still amazed that this was her life now. That evening, they attended the company Christmas party, the original one Raven had been hired to plan, now somewhat anticlimactic after the gala, but still meaningful. She watched Seo-jin interact with his employees, saw the way they looked at him with new eyes as he laughed and joked and actually participated in the festivities. "You broke him," Minji whispered to her, in the best way. "I didn't break him. I just reminded him how to be human." Same thing with that man. Later, when the party wound down and everyone headed home to their families, Seo-jin led Raven to the roof of the Hanyul building. The snow had stopped, and the city spread out below them like a field of stars, lights twinkling in the cold December air. "I have something for you," he said, pulling a small box from his pocket. "It's not even Christmas yet. Consider it a Christmas Eve present." She opened it to find a delicate necklace, a small pendant in the shape of a star, studded with diamonds that caught the light. "It was my mother's," he said softly. "She wore it every Christmas. I've been keeping it, waiting for someone who deserved it." Raven's eyes filled with tears. "Seo-jin, I can't. You can. You do." He took the necklace, clasping it around her neck with gentle fingers. "She would have loved you. She would have said you were exactly what I needed. I'm a mess. You're my mess, if you want to be." She laughed through her tears. "That's not very romantic. It's honest. And isn't that what you always wanted from me?" She kissed him, pouring every feeling she couldn't express into the contact. He responded with equal intensity, his arms wrapping around her, holding her like she was something precious and rare. When they finally broke apart, breathless and smiling, the first chimes of midnight began to ring across the city. "Merry Christmas, Raven,"
Merry Christmas,
Seo-jin
Raven.
murmured against her lips.
Merry Christmas,
"Merry Christmas,
Seo-jin.
Seo-jin." Above them, the stars seemed to shine a little brighter, and the snow began to fall again, soft and silent, blessing this unlikely love that had grown from antagonism into something beautiful. 6 months later, Raven stood in that same lobby where it all began, watching as workers put the finishing touches on a new installation, a year-round art piece that somehow incorporated elements of every season, including subtle nods to Christmas that made her smile. "Admiring your handiwork?" Seo-jin appeared beside her, coffee in hand, looking every bit the powerful CEO except for the softness in his eyes when he looked at her. "Admiring how far you've come. A year ago, you would have fired someone for even suggesting this. A year ago, I hadn't met you. And now? Now I understand that some things are worth making exceptions for." He handed her the coffee, keeping one for himself. "Speaking of exceptions, my assistant cleared my schedule for the holidays." "The whole holidays?" 2 weeks. "I thought we could visit your family in Chicago." Raven stared at him. "You want to meet my family?" "I want to meet everyone who helped create the woman who changed my life." He looked slightly nervous, which was adorable on him. "Unless you think it's too soon." "It's not too soon. It's perfect." She took his hand. "They're going to love you. They're going to hate me. I'm difficult and cold and terrible at small talk. You're also the man who loves their daughter. That'll count for something." He smiled, that rare, genuine smile she'd come to treasure. "Have I mentioned I love you today?" "Only twice. You're slipping. I love you, Raven Johnson. I love your stubbornness and your passion and your refusal to let me hide behind my walls. I love that you fought for Christmas in my building and ended up fighting your way into my heart." That was poetic. "I've been practicing." She kissed him right there in the lobby, in front of employees and visitors and anyone who cared to look. When they broke apart, someone started clapping, and soon the whole lobby was applauding. "This is embarrassing," Seo-jin muttered. "This is what love looks like. Get used to it." "Does it always involve public displays?" "With me, always." He laughed, pulling her close. "I wouldn't have it any other way." And as they walked hand in hand toward his private elevator, Raven thought about how strange life was. How you could walk into a building to plan a party and end up finding your person. How the man you clashed with could become the man you couldn't live without. How sometimes The best love stories started with tinsel and arguments and a stubborn refusal to back down. She glanced at Seo Jin, at the man he was now versus the closed-off CEO he'd been, and smiled. "What?" he asked. "Nothing, just happy." "Good." He pressed the elevator button, pulling her inside as the doors closed. Get used to that, too. The elevator rose toward the executive floor, toward their shared office where she'd long since been upgraded from the storage closet, toward the life they were building together. And if he kissed her breathless before the doors opened, well, that was just their love story continuing the way it started. Passionately, impossibly, and completely worth the fight. If this story made you smile, left you swooning, or had you rooting for Raven and Seo Jin from the very first argument, smash that like button and subscribe for more romance that warms your heart. Drop a comment telling me your favorite moment, whether it was their first clash in the lobby, that magical rooftop confession, or the moment when Seo Jin finally said those 3 words. And share this with someone who needs a love story to believe in this holiday season. Happy holidays. I love you all so much.